Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another What I'm Reading Right Now video here on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about what I have been reading, what I'm currently reading, what I'm going to be reading next. I've got some book mail, there's some new releases to talk about. Let's jump in. Much like last week, I finished 6 things since the last time we spoke, which is not quite as good as it needs to be, but I DNF'd one thing, so I think it all evens out in the end and I'm going to catch up with this TBR if it kills me. It might, it probably won't, realistically speaking, but who knows. First up, I finished Strike the Zither by Joan He. This is a YA book. It's the first part of, I believe, a duology, at least a series, in which we have a main character who is a strategist working for the rebellion of sorts, an army, working for them, who turns traitor. But does she really? And goes and works for the other side, meets their strategist, a hunky man named Crow, and the book kind of goes on from there. Or does it? Because I think, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but one of the big selling points of this book is I really thought I knew where it was going, and it did not go there. It went there to a degree, but it also went to some very different places that I wasn't necessarily expecting. If you're not a YA lover, I don't think this will be for you, but if you're like me, where if it's good YA, it's alright, I had a good time with it. Thought it was solid. 4 stars, ended up giving it. We'll probably read the sequel. I think my main recommendation would be if you're not a YA lover, look for it in the library if that's something you can access. Then finished Lady Night, which is the 4th book in the Protector of the Small Quartet by Tamara Pierce. Really enjoyed this. I think I mentioned last week I couldn't really remember what happened in it. Gradually that came back to me as I was reading the book. Funny how that happens. I still think this is not the strongest book in that quartet. I think the strongest one's probably the first or second one, but this is still an enjoyable story, an enjoyable end to the story. Looking forward to more Tamara Pierce in my future. After that, during something of an insomniac period, I finished Gleanings by Neil Shusterman. This is a collection of short stories in the world of Arc of a Scythe, which is a series that I think I have already done a review for. If I have, I'll link it. If not, it'll be coming in Overbooked in a few weeks anyway. I enjoyed this. What I was hoping for was to get more out of this story in terms of the world building, which has always been my favourite part of the Arc of a Scythe series. The romance that took over the book, particularly book 1, couldn't care less about. The overall world and implications of that world, I was much more interested in. And in some ways, this did give me what I want. I think it relies on having read the previous books and having a good memory of who the characters are, more than I wanted it to. I wanted a more broad look, but it's a broader look, and I'll take that. If you are planning on reading this, at least refresh yourself on the vague plot of the Arc of a Scythe series, or you might find yourself getting a bit confused. I found it helpful to just know who was who. If I could remember who was who, it was going to be okay. But yeah, a strong collection of short stories. If you like that series, I think you will like this, and if you just wanted a bit more, it's there for you. I read Animorphs 44. I'm also meant to be filming that this weekend, so hopefully that will be with you in a few weeks if you're a person who follows me for the Animorphs series and all the other books. I don't think there are many of you, but if you are, that's coming soon too. I've already filmed a review for this, so I will be talking about it at some point on your screens, hopefully very soon, because I think it comes out tomorrow and I haven't edited the video yet, but that's fine. I only filmed it yesterday. This is Kaikeyi by Vaishnavi Patel. This is a great book. I know you've probably already heard about this because it's already out in the US, but I read it for the first time and I thought it was really, really good. It's a reimagining of the Indian epic, the Ramayana, featuring one of the characters who's a little bit, not of a throwaway character, but a side character definitely in the Ramayana, bringing her to life a bit more. We've seen it done with other stories before, but this has a slightly different angle. Hopefully that review video will be out soon if you want to hear me talk more about that. I'm getting to it. And lastly, I finished my reread of A Restless Truth. I did the audiobook of this after having read the physical edition. I enjoyed the audio much more, possibly just because of generally the kind of mood I was in and the way I read it all in one go rather than in little chunks. Much more enjoyable. Have a review coming out for this on the 17th of November because I'm on the tour for that one. So if you're interested in hearing about that, stick around. If you haven't subscribed, you should subscribe so you know when that comes out. But I already talked about that last week, so don't worry too much about it. I'm in the middle of 6 books, some of which I did talk about last week. I was hoping to be finished with The Hero of Ages, let me hold it the right way up, before coming to do this video, but it hasn't happened. I've been in too many meetings and too many other things have been happening, but I only have this much left to go, so I'll be done by the time you're watching this, I expect. Really enjoying it, not liking it as much as The Well of Ascension. I think just in terms of the structure, I'm not enjoying it as much, but I still think as part of a trilogy it's very strong and I'm looking forward to the end because I typically like Brandon Sanderson's endings of books, so we'll see how that goes. I will talk about that next week. I'm enjoying the audiobook of Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is a reread, but honestly, I can't remember anything that happened, so it feels much more like a fresh read. You know how I'm like. Very much enjoying so far. Not too much to say about it though. I started it because I didn't have another audiobook on the go and it was on script. I went with it. I'm just about halfway through The Poison Song by Jen Williams. This is the third book in the Winnowing Flame trilogy. I'm really loving it. I did the first one physically, the second one by audiobook, and I'm reading this one physically, and it's a really good time so far. I'm interested in what's happening. There are interesting characters doing cool things. It's hard to talk about third books in series when I don't want to spoil the previous books, but if you liked book 1 and 2, I think you'll like book 3 as well. I do really want to make a review video for this whole series when I'm done with it. So stay tuned, that'll be here in the future as well. I am about 20% of the way through Fire Becomes Her by Rosie Thor. This has been on my TBR for quite some time. I've just finally got to it. It's probably a little bit more YA than I'm currently really reading in my life at the moment, but that doesn't mean I'm not enjoying it. And this is an author who I've been wanting to read for a while, so it seemed like a good idea to pick it up. But so far, very enjoyable. I think it's going to get more interesting as the book goes on. We're very much still in the setup phase at the 20% mark. I'm sorry if you can hear the dog itching in the background. And then I'm also reading another book that's been on my TBR for ages. This is Honeycomb by Joanne Harris. I'm sorry if you can't see it very well. It's hard to capture in this light. This I'm enjoying as well. And again, about 20-30% of the way through. What I hadn't realised was that this is a collection of short stories that I believe Joanne Harris wrote on Twitter. So it's a nice kind of fast-paced collection. I'm enjoying it. It's reminding me a lot of fairy tale books that I used to read when I was a kid, and that kind of understanding the moral of the story at face value and then going a bit deeper into it. It's interesting. I'm liking it. The art is absolutely beautiful. Let me find one of the colour illustrations for you. I don't know if that'll focus, but it's just beautiful. It's gorgeous. And lastly, I am still reading Africa Risen. I am hoping to finish this week. I just have another third of it to go. We'll probably talk about that in full later on, but so far it's been a short story collection. And you know me, they don't tend to blow me away, and I think I need to stick by my guns of only reading short story collections that are by one author rather than reading collections, just because I tend not to vibe with them as much. The shifting around of tone I find more difficult, and I don't like to read one story at a time for a really long time because it's just not how I read. So I'm enjoying it, but I'm not enjoying it as much as I've enjoyed single author compilations before. I ended up DNFing Roundbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. I got 160-ish pages through, up to chapter 9, and it just wasn't what I wanted, wasn't gripping me, too much was going on, and yet nothing happened. I haven't got the patience for this, and I don't think it's going to turn around. If you've read it and it turns around, let me know. I will hang on to it until I do my big unhaul at the end of the year. So you've got time. But for me, it wasn't a yes, and therefore it was a no. And lastly, still to read this week, I'm going to wait until I finish The Poison Song because I don't want to be in the middle of 2 trilogies at the same time, but I have Age of Assassins by R.J. Barker. This is the first book in the Wounded Kingdom trilogy. I'm going to be reading these over the next few weeks, so stay tuned if you want to hear more about those. I did get some book mail this week. This was from the lovely people at Orbit. They sent me a gorgeous finished copy of The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin. This is a new Jemisin. It's the sequel to The City We Became. I already talked about this because I read my digital review copy of it, and I absolutely love this, and now I have a beautiful finished copy. I can make a full review video for it, so that will be coming into your screens very, very soon. In terms of new releases, things that are out, I already mentioned Kaikeyi. This comes out tomorrow, but for you yesterday. If you haven't already got your hands on this, I really recommend reading it. It's a great book. The other things that are coming out around about now, they probably are already out, thinking about it, but as ever, I'm working off release dates that have been given to me months ago, and everything keeps changing. But The Atlas Paradox is out. I read The Atlas 6, and I didn't like it, but if you're one of the people who did like it, you can read the sequel now. And one that I did like, Into the Riverlands by Niveau, is now out. This is the third book in the Singing Hills cycle. It's a novella. I really, really enjoyed this. I can't remember when I talked about it, but if I can find it, I'll link the video where I mentioned that I had read it and what I said about it at the time. For me, I just think this is a really solid novella. I'm interested to see where it goes in conjunction with the rest of the series, where it goes from here. I think it is less strong than the first two, but still well worth reading if you enjoyed the themes and ideas that are explored in the first 2 novellas. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about, and I'll be honest with you, yesterday I did a marathon filming of a whole heap of new releases. This is just a selection of them, and I really need to get to editing them, which means I need to edit this first so we can get the ball rolling on a big editing marathon. So that might be what I do with my evening and some of my day off tomorrow. I hope that you're doing well. Let me know what you're reading down in the comments below, or let me know what you're up to if you're not reading. All valid options. While you're down there commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. You can also follow me on social media. Come hang out on Discord where we have chill chats about books. Nothing makes me feel more loved and appreciated than my patrons over on Patreon who support the channel and make videos like this possible, as well as getting early access to videos and bonus content. If you would like to join their number, that's linked below. I think they'll be getting my November TBR very soon, so if you want to check out what I've got planned for the month, that'll be there. Thanks to you for watching. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. Currently reading. View all. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? There it is.